Well, good morning to all of you. And thank you again for joining the segment. Make sure you get interactive. We do encourage you to go look for TV3 Ghana, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We stream there. Now, those platforms we stream. Please make sure you also share the streams as well so that we can have a lot of people joining us and we can get the conversation right. Send your messages through the streams. I know a number of individuals already send us money, always on Facebook, and then also Prince Anani Salasi, a couple of Aaron as well, always available, Wilberforce. So we'll see how we'll go about with some of the messages that you bring to us. But, well, for many of the related things we have to do, I have to say good morning to a very beautiful lady I just recently met, and Marjorie Taki. You work with gender activist and consultant Dinah Adiko, and so I wish you all the best for the day, Marjorie Taki. Well, in the meantime, let me just introduce my guest for the morning. Good morning to you. I have Elikem Kotoko. It's Kotoko, right?
Yes.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing very good, my brother.
Okay, great. So nice having you on the show. I haven't hosted you before, have I? We haven't hosted since you came into office.
No.
Okay.
You last hosted me when I was a student leader.
Okay. Yeah, that was years. That would be years ago. A lot of years ago.
Yes.
So he's currently the deputy national organizer for the NDC, and then also we have communications director for NADBO and also member of government's communication team. I have George AEC here. George, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, by grace.
Okay.
It's
Thank you
a pleasure to be back on your set.
Yesterday, when you were listening to the social media commentary on why government should go in for the loans, we're told that a total in excess of some 710 million. What was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning to my brother, Alikem, and good morning to our viewers. Permit me to say happy birthday to two friends of mine, Efuan Pofo and then Anakojo Boachisapong, all of the Campo 96 PTC. Enjoy your day, bro and sis. Yes, I listened to some of the comments. Some observation or perception is that we are already in dire straits. We are in a deep hole. Why do we go digging again? That was a germane call, which must be heeded.
Okay.
And so, yes, I don't know, should I dovetail into that?
No, so let me just introduce the subject we'll be talking this morning. And viewers, as well as those monitoring online. This morning, we're going to talk about two issues, and it's whether Parliament justified in approving a total of 710 million in 5 loan agreements. We're talking foreign currency, not Ghana cedis. As already we know that we're with the IMF, our debt stock has already ballooned out of proportion. And then the last part, which will be sometime as we spend some few minutes, we'll be talking about how the North Tongue Member of Parliament, Samuel Kudjeto Ablakwa, and we know yesterday that, the court did slap rather on the plaintiff. We're talking about Reverend Kusi Boateng's team and the council as well, and himself as a plaintiff, some 10,000 Ghana cedis as part of the action that was put before courts. And we're talking about all the issues that have been raised on the National Cathedral, the essence of having it. And he has gone to the US, apparently a consultant to the National Cathedral. We're talking about Carl Summers, has his address, and if you go to the United States, the address that was used in the registration, etc., traced to some coffee supply warehouse. It looks a bit murky, so we need some fine details as well. We'll try and get in touch with Samuel Kudjeto Ablakwa when we get to that point, and then we'll get some insight into all that. But look, now let's begin the discussion. Mr. Isi, if you take a look at all the concerns that have been raised, key among them are what the minority is raising. We spoke to Kesalato Forsen. Let's watch him, and then when we come back, we'll see whether there's some rationale in what he's saying. I'll pose that question to Mr. Isi here.
I'm surprised that the MPP has the courage to take additional loans at this critical moment. I'm surprised. And we call on the people of Ghana to join the NDC minority, the opposition, and call on this government to account. You see, the opposition cannot do the work alone. There are people in this country that voted for MPP. They voted for these numbers, yet they have left it only for the opposition to criticize and to point this government to the right direction. I think that is sad. We call on civil society organizations and well-meaning Ghanaians, the academia, and major institutions of state to join us in opposing this administration, because where they are taking this country to is scary. We are in a major hole. And when you are in a hole, the first thing you do is to stop digging so that you don't continue going down. Unfortunately, this government will not stop digging. Probably will enter the Guinness Books of Records for being a country that has defaulted in the repayment of its debt, external and domestic, a country that is insolvent, a country that is bankrupt as we speak, and yet they want to add to the public debt. Approximately 9 billion Ghana cedis that will add to the debt. But I ask myself, what are we using this money for? And when you speak, some of them say, oh, it's World Bank loan and it's concessional. Please, it's not true. It's not concessional, because you see, concessional loans are loans that meet 35% minimum concessionality. Some of these loans get only 26% concessionality. Some of them 25% concessionality. It doesn't meet the minimum concessionality of 35%. Aside that, whether concessionary loans or non-concessionary loans, we should be careful where we channel this money to, because in the end you repay. These loans are not grant. They are not free money. Even if someone gives you grant, you have to put it into proper use. But these loans, where the loans are going to, are major worry. So if you look at the primary healthcare investment program, for instance, first of all, the name suggests that as if the government is going to build hospitals or buying equipment. But majority of this are for the purposes of consultancy.
So the bigger question, Mr. AC here, is whether we're just borrowing to spend or borrowing to make sure we get some good returns, knowing that we are in a crisis, a financial crisis of this magnitude.
Yeah, thank you. The government will not just take these steps to borrow to just spend on non-important or non-valuable things. And so if you look at what the minority leader is saying, yes, he's brought up good points. But having said that, Roland, the truth is, you look at the kind of loans that are being approved by Parliament. How relevant are they? Are they important in our, if you permit me to use the word renaissance, economic renaissance steps that we are taking, especially on the heels of the DDEP, and we want our economy to bounce back? Well, how are we doing that? One of the loans is going directly, as he himself said, the healthcare investments in the healthcare sector. We are looking at COVID-19 issues. We need to get some infrastructure up. We are looking at food security, some investment in the agri area that is important, and one very key one, which is the establishment of a development bank. Okay, Development Bank Ghana. All these are very important developmental programs that the government is going to roll out. Another key one, which is being taken out of the Afri-Exim bank loan of about 750 million, is going to be hived off to about 98 million or thereabout in some ongoing projects, road projects, and then the completion of the Swami interchange. The people of Kumasi would not be happy to say it's not a very consequential loan. And so completing the Swami interchange, which has been there for about 15 years or so, it's not a good sight to behold. Anytime I go to Kumasi, I wasn't too happy that, from President Kufuor's time and back to an MPP administration, and that project is still there. It's not too good. It doesn't speak well of us, especially when that's one of our stronghold, or our strongest hold, that such projects will be left that way. And so I think it's good, and the people of the area will be excited about that. Having said all this, one, I've established that they are very relevant loans. The minority leader is saying they're going to be used for administrative, and I don't want to believe that major parts of these monies will be for administrative purposes. No, definitely, because of the times we are in and the prudence we envision, the finance minister is aware, especially when we are on the table with the IMF to secure about $3 billion. And you know, when you are on an IMF program, prudence is very important. And so how you expend your monies and what you use them for, every dime, every cent is very important and must be accounted for. So I think looking at the issues on the table, things that we are going to use the monies for, they are very important. But I agree with his argument that we are in dire straits, Roland, and our economic situation is a bit murky. So why should we go on to dig deeper? Sometimes the situation is such that if you don't get some support to stabilize, okay, it throws the whole issue out of gear. And I keep asking, would we rather that we get into the doldrum and our economy collapses like a pack of cards?
If you take the components, because the thing about the, is it SOFO interchange, etc. The original agreement was passed.
Yes.
Has been passed. The approval of that. So there's an on-lending one subsequently.
Yes.
So it's not as if it's part of the 710 we're talking about. It's not part. So the five loans that we're talking about.
Yes.
They are, for example, the $60 million third additional financing for the Ghana COVID-19 Emergency Preparedness and Response Project.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Then we have the $150 million to finance the West Africa Food System Resilience Program.
That's why I talk about food security.
And then we have the 170 million euros, okay, for the setting up or establishment of the Development Bank of Ghana. That already has been done. So then we have the rest being the medical equipment provision project in response to COVID-19. That's 150 million to finance primary healthcare investment projects, 150 million to finance public financial management for service delivery program. Okay, we're talking about projects and investing these monies into areas that will not give us immediate returns.
Yeah. Why? You think we need immediate returns? That's what
for the short to medium term.
We are in.
Okay.
Because the DDEP, we are looking at how many years? By 2028, we should be at debt to GDP of 55%. Okay, so it's important. Every decision you take must be geared towards reducing your debt issues. Okay, and so if you set
You're
up
just conflicting yourself.
No. Why?
You say every decision you take
must be geared towards that. And so if you set
must be geared towards
reducing your debt issues.
So this decision that has been taken,
Development Bank Ghana, what is it for? Okay.
Have you read about how the banks have been deeply exposed to government security?
Medium to long term, definitely. That's why the president said at the May Day that he thinks it's about time we begin to diversify investments as pension funds and co into the real sector. Okay, and he mentioned some. So setting up Development Bank is to support our development.
Agri development, what are they doing?
Development Bank,
Ghana Commercial
major infrastructure. Ghana Commercial Bank has its purpose. Okay, this one is mainly focused on development of major infrastructure and others. If we are saying we need to get, the president said that pension funds, can we begin to look at not spending about 70% in buying papers, government papers and co, and moving into maybe constructing a 6-lane road from Accra to Kumasi and tolling it, okay, and taking dividends. These are things we need to look at. The real estate area, Slate has been there, okay. What else can we do, okay? There are a lot of areas, railways and others. Can we begin to push our monies in such real sectors so that the country will begin to be on such growth trajectory? Okay, then those things will begin to rake in money. If you do development bank, they take the loans and invest in infrastructure and co. Interest payments and co. So we begin to.
It's the same thing we've done. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Where we are currently.
Different paradigm. We look at
George,
it.
So are you conversant with the numbers as far as the bank exposures are concerned?
Of course, I do.
And you think that setting up another bank is the way to go? Already,
the government thinks it's very important, and so let's look at that and see how it is. Purposely for development. Sometimes you go to bank, you want some facility for construction. Contractors facing difficulties. They've got contracts, and then having funding for it becomes a challenge. There's a place that you can go and get the facility to go and do your job and then repay. Okay, purposely for development. That and major infrastructure and co can be invested in. Okay, so I think it's not a bad thing. You say the timing. Well, we are in difficult times, but I foresee Development Bank Ghana, raking in profits to fund itself and help us to move the nation forward. So it's not a bad. None of these things that we've chronicled here is a bad investment as far as these.
Nobody says it's a bad investment. It's just that
the minority leader said a chunk of it is going to be used for administrative purposes and co. And I want to disagree with that. I want to disagree with that.
Elikem, what do you make of it? The argument, and this one is not only being made by politicians, even economists and some critics of the general business environment are saying if you're hard up in debt, we're just seeing a debt default rating.
Roland, I sometimes find it very baffling to comprehend how the NPP appreciates even the figures and the situations we are in. Don't forget that this is a regime that has actually increased our public debt from 122 billion to close to 600 billion. So we have a debt hunk of that amount, and we are going for another $710 million. And we are the same people with cap in hand, begging the IMF that we are so irresponsible and reckless in terms of our unbridled and reckless expenditure. So please come to our aid. Then at the same time, here we are, trying to even defend what is indefensible. I do not see it. And the Ghanaian looks at
he says that there's a justification for it.
Well,
it's important.
That was why I was surprised when even the likes of Sofo Lane, what was the name, interchange, etc. came in.
That has been approved before. It's
yes,
just that they have their own.
Because this very government has made us even know that as a result of the DDEP, they have suspended almost all construction projects. 2 days ago, I was driving through to Volta region, the Aflau Lane. The little projects that are even at the Pram Junction, etc., have all halted. If you get to the Obechebi roundabout, the project there has actually halted. Same is the case all over. And so if you look at the fact that this is a regime that has raked in more revenue, tax revenues, than any other in Ghana's history. If you want me to take you through the figures, 2017 they had 33,624 billion, 2018 39,165, 2019 45. It kept going up. 2021 was 57.6 billion, and 2022 was 75.1 billion. You've gotten all this to yourself, and don't forget that we are a country that is now in dire situation. And what do you think this makes of us? So the problem we are having is evidently clear that it is not just, it's not a matter of the fact that that COVID-19 has brought in so much difficulty or Russian. It is just because of the reckless borrowing and expenditure of government. And you see, this is what happens. Eventually, these loans get approved. We will get to hear that the parliamentary candidates have been given 100,000 each, or so and so have been given this amount to facilitate their political campaign. And this is how dire it is, and very worrying. For the troubling Ghanaian on the street who cannot even afford a square meal today. For the farmer out there who can no longer buy a knapsack sprayer because from 50 cities it now costs 350 cities. And you're now telling him that you're still mentioning COVID-19 as of today that we speak. I wonder where exactly. And you see, if you want me us to go back, you remember one of those numerous, needless, and very empty lectures that were held by the then vice presidential candidate. If you permit me the latitude of time to go through some of the things Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said during his lecture series on 24th of March 2015, when he was the very person punching the NDC's decision to go to the IMF and some other loans. That, in conclusion, what he said was that it demonstrates a lack of understanding or appreciation of Ghana's debt dynamics by the government. How can the government be seeking to contract this magnitude of non-concessional loans at this time when it does not have enough cash to meet statutory payments?
Dr. Mahmoud.
That's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, 24th of March, 2015. So what is this hypocrisy of cherry-picking as and when it favors the MPP? I do not think that governance has been reduced to this level where it means that words that we said ourselves in the past comes to be biting us, and we do not, or we did not mean them at all. And so when confronted, then they either go mute or still defend it. And it is what is even worrying and irritating the Ghanaian watching you and myself today, that in the midst of what we find ourselves, there's supposed to be a certain posturing that is expected of government and their spokesperson. But in defense of these, then it means that we have actually got squared pegs in round holes who do not have an appreciation of the challenge at hand. And if this was the same Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia who was criticizing the decision of the NDC at the time we were seeking IMF bailout, punching holes in why it was not prudent for us to even go for any loan at the time, now going for $710 million with a debt overhang of close to $600 million. Where are we heading to? There's very little to show for it.
Wow. What do you mean? You do all the social intervention programs that people are enjoying,
such as
we have free SHS, we have...
We've had free SHS from the very onset of the first administration. And I'm not sure that they want to continue mentioning this to the Ghanaian, because there are a lot of challenges that are confronting people out there on the street.
Well, not in the structure in which we have the current educational system.
Yes.
At secondary level.
Yes. But I'm telling you that you cannot continue in this manner and expect Ghanaians to believe that these are solutions you are finding to the problems we already find ourselves in. What is the IMF's position going to even be on this? Does this then warrant us to still be going to the IMF seeking for some kind of bailout? How disciplined are we being in this case then? So in a nutshell, this is just a regime that seems to be very confused, but doing anything and everything it can just in its will. Mind you, all this is going to be a burden posed on the next regime that will take over from them, which is worrying because there's virtually no space for any government that takes over to even perform any magic. Where are we heading? What is the wrong with it? So it is known, and you see, it is the first time in the history of Ghana that we have had many diplomats, foreign agencies, other people who are not necessarily even Ghanaians have to comment negatively about Ghana's economic situation. Dr. Steve Hank has now made it his priority to constantly be talking about Ghana.
Professor Steve Hanks.
Yes, Professor Steve Hanks.
Johns Hopkins.
You look at the
He's always criticized at skill service.
Yes. And the German ambassador, the various ambassadors have also had something to say. Yeah. Not long ago, the president who was telling other colleagues of his that they should try to win themselves of the world's economies is the same person begging Japan that please help us to secure an IMF bailout. Persons who probably could have been taking wisdom lessons and economic lessons from you because you have the
one
best.
One of the key considerations that we made was that we are here because of COVID in Ukraine.
It cannot be.
Why not?
Why should it be? COVID has actually become a beneficiary to this regime that has refused to account for over 35 billion. So we cannot rule out the fact that COVID had an impact on our economy. But we cannot say that COVID and the Russian invasion of Ukraine has become the major reason for which we find ourselves here. And when you make reference to this, they quickly take you to 2017 and 2018 that you saw how the economy was booming or began to grow. Look, the EI already predicted as far back as 2015 that President Mahama and the NDC laid a solid foundation, for which reason that whoever took over in 2017 was going to have strong fundamentals to ensure that there was going to be a proper takeoff. They predicted even the growth rate. That was just exactly what they were cruising in. What specifics can they tell us that they contributed as a government that just took over on 7th January, that they did so well that contributed to the growth that we started witnessing in March, in April, June, July of 2017? Nothing. So you were just swimming in the goodwill of the then administration of President Mahama and the NDC. Now, when Shove came to push...
But John Mahama and the administration of the NDC were not in power. It was...
No, we were not in power. But you see, if you laid a proper foundation...
And his finance minister who were managing the economy.
Well, that is why I am not surprised that President Nana Addo has, in his loud silence, stated to us that he's not going to sack Ken Ofori-Atta. He's the best finance minister he's got. He's the closest family friend he's got. And even though he's become a mess of himself, he's still at post. And so if you have people who do not have an appreciation of the dire moment we even find ourselves in and are continually defending these unbridled and reckless expenditures of theirs, then I'm sorry but to say that we keep digging in the ditch we find ourselves and we'll keep sinking.
So if you have viewers like Mike Boche, Manini Mani, Elijah Kote raising concerns, and even Jaba raising concerns about the rate at which we're borrowing, that should be crossing the thoughts of government.
It does.
Okay. So how is government empathizing with the ordinary Ghanaian, coming to the Ghanaian who has invested in its own portfolios or its own assets, and now going back to say that I can't pay your returns, and so I want to restructure them for you, and even cutting some of those returns by way of the percentages, etc. So how is government thinking that? I'm thinking about you because this, but at the same time in Parliament saying that this expenditure cannot wait. I need to go and take the money quickly and do this.
Yeah, the expenditure is in lieu of the benefits of the ordinary citizens.
You take me through all the individual loans and then mention the benefits, the medium.
Oh, but you chronicled it yourself. You chronicled
but the way you are saying
yourself.
that everything is fine, that's why.
30 million from Korea. You yourself mentioned finance primary healthcare investment, Ghana COVID-19 emergency preparedness.
Why do we need a Ghana COVID-19 emergency fund?
Yeah, going forward, you said health infrastructure very important, right? And so should we abandon them? Okay, we need to continue to build infrastructure. There are certain places that the previous administration had built to a certain point, okay, and they are calling on government to complete them. Fortunately, some work have been completed. Others, we need to get the funding to complete them, okay, to the benefit of the people who live in a district that has no district hospital. You say it's not important for them to have these because, yes, we are in debt. We are restructuring our debts, and then we are putting measures in place to get out of this situation as promised by the president, okay? And we are very confident and upbeat that we're going to get out of this situation. Yes, it's difficult. Our debt is moved from 122 to 575 billion. Now people even pushing it to about 600 billion. It's true. But if you look at the rate of debt increases, the rate from 2009 to 2016, and you look at the rate from 2016 till now, you check and see whether it is slower now. The rate of accumulation is slower now than it was.
But that's not what you told the Ghanaian public.
Don't worry.
In 2016, on the voting, on the campaign platforms,
yes,
you said borrowing was not a good thing, and that.
We didn't say we're not going to borrow, okay, but we're going to be prudent in our borrowing, okay?
Is that what you said?
Very prudent in our borrowing.
You said you were going to be prudent in borrowing.
Prudent.
Who did you say that to?
In our campaign, because sometimes people quote, they say that we will not borrow. Which country says it's not going to borrow? Have we attained self-sufficiency level? No.
All the central investing lectures that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia held.
Yes, he gives you, look, we've got even the IMF boss herself has come to tell you the reasons why Ghana is where it is today. You get it? And people want to tell us that we should discard the exogenous factors that contributed in where we are today. Okay? I agree with people who say there might be some things that happened internally that contributed to it. Yes, I would not say it's completely nothing of ours was done to, bring the situation where it is, okay? But the major issues are the exogenous factors, which COVID, you cannot discount that. And he says you shouldn't touch on COVID. When the Ghana Statistical Service is measuring, this thing recently said imported inflation alone contributes about 28% to our inflationary computations.
And who has caused it?
You get it? No, what is imported inflation? You get it? You're bringing virtually everything from outside. Fortunately, this government is taking steps to get one district, one factory.
When? How long is it going to take us?
Ask anybody.
What products by way of import substitution have we been able to replace on the market?
And there's a gestation period, and then periods that you begin to get reap the dividends thereof. Okay, as we speak, just yesterday, the president commissioned the vehicle assembly plant. Okay, which is geared towards producing about 100,000 in totality, all the assemblage plants that we brought in. About 100,000
assembling what?
Vehicles.
From where?
Vehicle assembly.
Did we manufacture any parts in that vehicle? That's
come on. Once you do the assembling here, definitely it's going to create opportunities for people.
For people who assemble. I'm saying that
you would have paid at the port.
Okay.
Would not be there.
George,
and it's going to
do travel. You do travel.
Yes.
You see how the developed Asians,
yes,
the developed Arabs, the developed Europeans, and
they started from somewhere,
and the Americans.
Yes.
You see how they developed.
They started from somewhere.
So, for example, if you take a typical phone or a car, the parts is manufactured somewhere. Those countries that have developed, they manufacture those things there.
Yes.
Well, they are able to spend on the things that are manufactured. So, can you tell us all the assembly plants that you are saying that the president commissioned, etc., that's going to... Can you tell us how that is contributing to reducing employment, how that along the value chain is enabling us to transfer technology? Yeah. Can you tell us how that is going to contribute to any company in Ghana's profit and loss account?
Thank you. As we speak, there are some state agencies that are buying VW directly from the assemblage.
Where's the VW made from?
Oh, come on, Germany. So that's
the point.
No, they've brought a point. Look, as you go, transfer. You talked about transfer of technology. If our people, engineers, could begin to work with these people, they are going to acquire that technology with time. Magazine and Kokompe and others will begin to also produce some parts that may be useful for them. And they can be co-opted into that. KNUST Engineering Department and co. will begin to have technology transfer, idea sharing and co. Once the plants are here, it starts from somewhere. When Korea started manufacturing vehicles, I understand the first vehicle was moving backwards instead of forward, right? They corrected it, and today, look at the Hyundai vehicles all over the place.
But they are manufactured in Korea and sent to the rest of the world.
Yes, so
that's a different thing altogether.
No, so assemblage plant is a good beginning. Okay, when Nigeria had Peugeot assemblage plant there, all of us in the sub-region were getting Peugeot, right? And thinking Peugeot is from Nigeria because there's an assemblage plant there. Okay, so if you properly manage it and develop it, you then get to a point where you say, okay, let's set up. We're going to produce some of these things from scratch here in Ghana. Okay. So it's a good beginning.
So the second leg of the question then is, for example, if you go and borrow, you put in an airport, you put in a railway system, you put in some system that gives you quick returns or monetary returns, that is good.
Good.
You make comparisons to what we've borrowed in our time of need, in our time of bankruptcy. I mean, literally. How do you justify that, by way of the question I'm asking?
Well, my brother, I said, I agree with the minority leader that we should be circumspect in continuing to borrow. But sometimes you need some money to stabilize the situation for you to be able to take off.
Stabilize where?
Stabilize your difficult situation. You are in dire straits. Are we saying we should throw out our hands in despair and say we ain't going to be able to do anything, so let it be as is? No. You need to see what you can do to get some parts of the economy functioning and working well, okay? When it's working well, as you're hoping to have the IMF support, okay? And then other ways of raising refunds and co internally or whatever to support the building process. That's important. And so if we have these now, these are not new loans, these are loans that were in the 2023 budget brought to Parliament that were approved yesterday, okay?
60 million being the third tranche of financing COVID-19 preparedness response. 150 million West Africa food systems resilience. That's okay. We've already been spending 600.
Financial experts who are saying at this time we need to channel a lot of investment into the agriculture sector. I've heard
already we had been spending over 600 million planting for food and jobs.
Good.
We're not seeing the fruits.
Good.
So then
you're not seeing the fruit.
No, we're not. Please.
If you don't want to see
medical equipment provision project
to
the point that the finance minister was so frustrated, had to be relocating market to the frontage of the ministry.
That's the agric minister.
Yes, the agric minister. Yes,
Dr.
before he
Kutu.
left office. Yes.
Good. And that was, people appreciated it.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
30
million facility finance.
And others,
no, so the reality is,
yes.
Are we just spending for the stomach and the body?
How?
Or we're spending for growth?
For growth. How can you tell me investing in agriculture?
Relate apart from agriculture, relate that.
The COVID-19 health infrastructure support and co. What is it? It's medium to long-term investment, okay? If we're able to, there was a partnership, I understand, between Ghana and I think Senegal to get vaccine center and other. You think this is not forward-looking?
It's just forward-looking, but when you're broke,
so it doesn't mean
when you're broke, you don't go and treat yourself at an expensive hospital.
No,
you go to a public hospital.
These are how much is this? Okay,
it's a lot of money when you change it to city. It's a lot of money
to support you to be able to make that contribution and get that strategic facility in place for tomorrow. You will say maybe, because I'm broke, you can't do anything, okay? And the little investment or taking your kids to school, you say, because I'm broke, I'm not going to do that. No, okay? You try hard to get that one going whilst you correct your system and structures to be able to rake in the major investments that you need to be, you need to engender that trust and confidence in you by the investor community. Okay, that is very important. You remember May coming down last year, people were withdrawing their investments. Why? Because they were a bit skeptical about our investment markets and co. Where you saw the consequential effect on the free fall of the cedi to the dollar and its effect on business people in this country. Okay, the Abosuoka people were crying. Okay, and so when these things have been halted, and then the cedi regained, value a little against the dollar, it's brought some respite in the environment, okay? The fuel pricing, how has it been, okay? A diesel, a liter went to as far as about 23 cedis. Okay?
Mr. George, Mr. George, you see, not too long ago, we had the Ghana Union of Traders Association.
Yes.
You had the Ghana Union of Traders Association come to raise issues, basically with 3 tax handles that were assented to by the president.
Yes.
And the Ghana Union of Traders Association are part of manufacturing. Please clean your face, okay. So we have them doing imports for the value chain manufacturing sector. They do import for real product, etc. If we really wanted to make sure that we reverse the trend, what should we be borrowing and investing in? Apart from what we've seen for the agricultural sector, is it not how to make sure we grow more rice, we're able to do more manufacturing, we're able to do this and that, instead of just borrowing and spending?
What's the essence of the development bank, Ghana? You don't seem to appreciate its significant contribution to
No, we've already approved that. It's not part of this one. We've talked about it. The government never listened. They went ahead with the development bank.
You get it? So I don't see why you don't want to appreciate its contribution in the scheme of affairs. Okay? It's important. And all the others, Sofola interchange, you say still you don't want to appreciate that. Okay? So it's not that because we are difficult. This government hasn't stopped. Yes,
Mr. George, listen to me.
There are certain projects that have been temporarily
line interchange, the development bank Ghana, they were approved. So this one are just on lending again. So please, let's not put them. They are not in the category. They are not in the category of the 710.
Yesterday, it wasn't part.
No, we had 7. So 5 are new ones, and then there's the other 2 are just already ones that are done. So please, let's wasn't
part of yesterday's work by Parliament.
It's not part of the total that the media has put together.
Come on. It was part of the program by Parliament yesterday, and it's important for government going forward. Okay? So, fortunately for us, in spite of all the difficult times, this government hasn't said no worker is going to be paid. There are certain projects, though halted or stalled, it's now been completely abandoned. Okay? Ongoing projects are ongoing, and that is very important for the people. It's people who need roads to their communities when the resource is there and the funding is available, why not? Okay. But I agree with as I said, with the minority leader, we should be circumspect in the quantum that we shouldn't have that appetite that, oh, the facilities are available, so let's go. No. Okay. Especially, we are aware of that. That's why we decided to go for the IMF facility. And those things come with conditionalities, right? And so then you are going to have whip over you to say, look, you cannot be expanding here, there, and co. Okay, but this government has made a lot of social intervention investments in those areas, LIP, free SHS, and other areas that directly benefits the people. That I hear by people mostly say is trophy expenditure. We borrow to spend. No, these are long-term investments in human capital. Okay. Let's begin to appreciate all these goodies for the people of Ghana. Today, you may disagree because we are in financial dire straits. Yes. Tomorrow, in the next 5-10 years, you begin to look back and say, wow, these were good investments that were made for our collective progress and development.
Elegant. So this is what Bright Simmons, Bright Simmons, in Money Africa, and an pedigree. This is what he says. Now, back to government's decision to borrow hundreds of millions of dollars for a new state bank, rather than fixing the existing ones. Already, we've talked about how the existing ones are highly exposed because of some concerns some of the banks have. I don't want to put some of the percentages out. And then name some of the individual banks, but because it has some impact on consumer perception, etc. But Parliament is supposed to review an on-lending agreement between the European Investment Bank and then Ghana. 170 million.
Yeah.
And the question that has been raised is some of our politicians who are raising it. We're talking about those who are monitoring the investment climate, the business community, academia who teach economics, business, finance, etc., raising issues that the government is not getting its priorities right.
Let it not be lost on us that as we speak, between 4 to 7 local banks risk going down the drain soon. I'm not saying it. Let it also not be lost on us that even this year alone, the Consolidated Bank Ghana made a total loss of 2.8 billion last year. And do you recall when actually COVID-19, the first COVID-19 case was recorded in Ghana? Rowan, do you recall?
Yeah, 12 March.
Yeah. Good. Do you also recall when the president set up the Forest Committee? The Franklin Kujo 42-member
Yes, that'll be 2019.
Good. The reason for setting up that committee was because the city had depreciated so much that it was the worst since 2015. So we had already taken a nosedive, and COVID-19 only became God-sent face saver. And so let's put every blame on COVID-19. Then Putin also decided to do it. That is why in my submission I did say that COVID-19 had an impact. But we cannot decide to be borrowing recklessly.
Which one is reckless? Point it out.
But you see, when President Mahama was borrowing, even the 399 million for the Mpakadan Railway, etc., there were a lot of questions. You see, when you wake up today, when you go to the airport, you see Terminal 3, very evident. When you go to Etuabo, you see it there. When you go to Reach Hospital, you see it there. And you see, that is why I keep saying, I cannot, there's no way we can say that no government has done no development. But you see, to whom much is given, much is expected. And especially if you are one of a talker. I have been saying consistently, until 2017, the most trusted presidential candidate in Ghanaian was Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, His Excellency. But get out on the streets, there now. I dare say that he is the most hated by Ghanaians on the streets. Yes. And these are realities of what people are going through. And so if you cannot, and you see, one thing I admire about my brother, if you care to know, we went to same school and mates. My brother and President Nana Akufo-Addo, they speak very good and flowery English. But when it comes to the work, it's zilch. Zero.
You don't see free SHS, one district, one factory. Do we have this one, the one village wonder? Is this ongoing? Yes. One village wonder.
Yes.
Okay. Then the one village. Then there's one constituency, $1 million.
And go out.
Is it ongoing?
Go out.
Is it ongoing?
Yeah, the office of the president.
Go out to the constituencies there and find out if anybody has received that 1 million per constituency. I've received 7 million up to now. Look, even as early as just before the 2020 elections, I'm repeating here again, the San Diego parliamentary candidate, Felicia, stated that she was given 100,000 cities. You know, Amanewe, you know what we call Pachika?
Toffee. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The COVID funds was being distributed to them as it's not true.
Did you see that in the Auditor General's report?
Am I supposed to see that when I have one of your own
600
actually
million
caught on tape saying so? You get it.
People.
So it's so sad to say the least that this is how we have reduced governance to.
Look,
when you look at government borrowing, we are even borrowing more to just consume. And you see, for instance, they're telling you COVID-19, what have you,
because that's the argument out there. That we're borrowing and what we're investing in are not going to give us returns. These are not going to bring us any returns. These are not going to bring us any returns.
When the government started with take or pay, and over $1 billion.
We have not seen take or pay.
No, hold on. You see,
he's talking generic.
Beautiful. Okay. Are you aware government has signed new power agreements? Why has your government also signed take or pay agreements? Your government just signed new power agreements. Why are they also take or pay?
It's not a take or pay.
No, it's take or pay.
No, it's not.
The new agreement they have signed.
The new one.
Yes.
It's not a take or pay.
I'm telling you, get back to the record.
Get into the
details. See, so I am scandalized.
I've been reckless to say we will not honor the debt obligations.
No, nobody is saying you should not honor debt obligations.
Thank you.
But when you are taking loans, when you are taking it, and it is evident.
To discredit any one of these ones that was approved yesterday.
What is there to be credited, let alone to be discredited?
COVID-19 support.
What is there to be credited, let alone to be discredited? There's nothing there to be credited in the first instance. Because, to even think that we are still thinking of COVID-19 at this time. And I saw something like primary health care, what have you. Right. I don't know if we have still found adequate vaccines, even for our babies.
Oh, well, they will argue that that's it. So it's part of the issue.
Isn't it so shameful that a country as proud as ours,
importing,
that have had to lose sight over even having those vaccines until it runs out, and we have to fall in on neighboring countries who also experience the same COVID-19 we have been shouting on rooftops, talking about. So I do not think that this is child's play. I do not think that this is just about borrowing. But the fact that government continues to refuse to pay heed to advice, not only by the NDC, but by Ghanaians who continue to worry over the reckless borrowing. And all this, we have said it many times. Family members are beneficials because they are transactional advisors to borrowings that are going on.
Use their services.
It doesn't matter. It is. You see.
So all of a sudden, their investment company should collapse.
Nobody is saying so. Nobody is saying so. But where some of these borrowings have been seen as not justified and being questioned by many, not only the opposition.
US and other states, they poach experts and pay them huge sums
to
be in government.
And we
please note today you are being disruptive. Usually you are not, but today I don't know what tea you took this morning.
That is why it is difficult for one to comprehend. Even GCB made a loss of 1.8 billion.
No, I'll touch on those.
And you get this. And so if these already existing banks are struggling, and you don't think that the so-called financial sector cleanup, which cost you 21 billion, could not resuscitate them or actually revive them. And now all you are talking about is that maybe contractors need some funding, some farmers need some funding again, and we need to set up other banks for them. Then we may as well be setting up banks almost every year or two in order to deal with matters of this nature. We have not been able. You see, you had even Frank Laporte, the World Bank country manager, tell us that we've been mismanaging. Did he say embezzled as well, or we mismanaged? Yes, we mismanaged and misapplied funds. And I recall during even the COVID time, where you went to the World Bank website, and they did indicate on their website that there was no transparency on the disbursement of funds that were given to Ghana in terms of the COVID-19 funds. So it is so surprising that even till date, the very apostles, with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who was christened as the economic doyen of Ghana, or even Africa, who criticized even government going for certain loans at the time we were seeking IMF bailout, it's not the same one reneging on something they felt or said they were not going to do, but are now doing that even in greater proportion on an industrial scale.
Exogenous.
What is exogenous?
Exogenous.
What is exogenous now?
Let me break it down. External.
Oh, is that so?
He knows.
Oh, okay.
I know he knows.
So it means that it's external factors causing this. You see, even when the IMF came here, the IMF boss that you were referencing did not tell us that all our problems were as a result of COVID-19.
Yeah, of course.
And that is why when the minority and Ghanaians on the street are telling you that you cannot continue to blame your reckless borrowing and your unbridled expenditures on COVID-19 and Russian invasion of Ukraine. At a point, I think the Russian government even had to issue a certain statement that was trying to put it right to the government that, look, you are not one of our major clients when it comes to...
Actually, they have their embassy here, and they came out with the numbers.
Yes.
That were not a bread consuming or a wheat, oatmeal consuming country, which is true.
You see, and so...
But George is ambivalent.
I understand.
They still insist that...
Fertilizer.
I understand that one... But you guys set up a fertilizer. You said under your one district, one factory, you set up a fertilizer manufacturing company. And that is not adequate enough, or is just complementing what we have and cannot still. You see, look, I know that it's a difficult time to actually be a spokesperson for a government that is already sinking and continues to.
No, but George is not struggling. He's on top of the issue.
Oh,
George.
You see, I feel that the Ghanaian on the streets expects to see government showing some remorse. We are here not because of COVID-19. We are here because of the reckless borrowing, because of our expenditure. We are here because, you see, COVID-19 can never be, that is why I gave you an example. Do you recall when the Forest Committee was set up? That was before even COVID-19.
I believe it was either September or
October. Yes, the economy was already taking a nosedive.
We had gotten out of the IMF not too long ago.
Not too long, when we had the Wache Party or NK Party or what have you. So we were already taking a nosedive. And that's when, just 2 years after they took over. So when they themselves had to take control of the economy, then it was a nosedive.
Well, they were already in charge of the economy.
Yeah, they were. That was the time, and the result was what we were seeing. They definitely.
You are saying that when they had to take charge of the economy without the IMF.
Yes, but you see, what I'm telling you is that that is why I would cite the EI for them.
Unfortunate.
You see, when we are blaming COVID, we fail to even account for COVID expenditures. Where even the auditors report,
Auditor General.
the Auditor General's report did tell us, was so revealing about the damning effects of how
the misapplication of funds. Also going contrary to the public financial management and public procurement.
And these are people who have actually
tagged themselves. You and I have argued about
it. They have tagged themselves as persons who were going to be very disciplined and all that.
Yes.
But where did they throw all that to? To the dogs. And it is the main reason we are where we are today.
But according to them, they've been disciplined.
It's
COVID and Ukraine.
The German ambassador had to openly tell them that, look, if you're a country that is in dire need of support and you want us to support you, then you need to look at your expenditure, you need to look at the size of your government, etc. And that is why I was even happy, for instance, that 2 days or 3 days ago, the TUC General Secretary was very strong and had the nerves, the energy to be able to stand before the president and let him know that the National Cathedral, which was a personal dream you had in your bedroom and a personal promise you gave to God, and we were not there as Ghanaians, cannot become a burden on us, which eventually has even become a scam or a fraud being perpetrated on the Ghanaian. So I think that government ought to realize that your borrowing is like digging deeper, further, where we find ourselves. And you cannot continue in this manner and expect that, okay, this is going to help the country. It is not helping us in any way. We are borrowing too much. And they will now come out always telling us that, oh, free SHS. Nobody is saying that. Do we even know the challenge we are confronted with free SHS?
We do.
What are the caterers saying? We cannot afford. We can't even give them healthy meals.
Well, that's why
we have not thought through.
That's why we're investing in agriculture with this loan, so that we're able to grow more.
Roland.
Yes, sir.
It's pain I talk of these things.
Oh, is that not the rebuttal?
I talk of this
I'm doing pain on behalf of Georgia, you see.
I talk of these things with pain because I am a young person, and those of us around this table are very young. Give or take, all things being equal, we have close to 40 years ahead of us. And so we should not allow people who are in extra times of their life mortgaging our future.
It's not fair.
It is very fair. I'm telling you. are in the extra time of their lives, mortgaging our future without our involvement and seeking our consent. And where we want to preach and make them know that, look, what they are doing is inimical to our future. And then they say, we are just talking. No. These are real life situations that will have dire consequences, especially after even your NPP government leaves office. That is when the dire situations will now be, where people will no longer realize that it was even a certain Nana Danko Akufo-Addo who imposed the hardships we are feeling in 2027, 2028 on us, but may rather want to be blaming the person who is in charge at the time. And it's so sad. Okay. We don't have to find ourselves here.
You wanted to say something?
Yes, he's involved. The MPs
in the borrowing.
He says, nobody's considering the young. Parliament is approving it. So we have our representatives in Parliament. Okay, so you cannot say that you're not.
On that note,
on the issues
you are saying as a collective.
Yes, as a collective.
They have to take collective responsibility.
And two, the banking sector. Yeah, he said about the economists and experts are saying about 4 banks are likely to face challenges.
Yeah,
it's true because that's why we say a lot of them. The president has said buying papers and all that. If you push it there, so let's begin to.
They're highly exposed.
Yes. Okay, and that's why government is saying the stabilization fund of about 15 billion is going to be there to support. But not
as
we speak, Societe Generale posted profits.
But not a new bank.
Yes, so I know challenges are there in these times. We are not in the normal times, but the banks will get their noses above water, and then with government policies and programs, be able to cushion them to get through these.
You see, and sweet English.
Just a quick one, Roland.
Okay.
Let it be put on record. The minority at the committee level opposed all the loans.
It's inconsequential.
That is true.
The plenary is taking a decision.
No, I mean the plenary was by what? By popular voice decision.
Parliament,
and you know that if the minority opposed that at the committee level, there was no way even a single one of them. There was no way even a single one of them was going to be in support of it at the plenary. Sure. That is just a known fact.
Sure.
Yes.
Where is that?
All right. And you see, out of a purse of 800 billion, only 5.4 billion was spent on free SHS since September 2017.
Oh, no, it's
so
more,
what are we talking? No,
in the last
that is what you have as a record. 5.4 billion.
The current ones that are
and you see, 500 million of COVID-19 payments were even outside the government system.
There are other aspects, social programs, LEAP, capitation, the number. Cool. These things are school feeding, the number of beneficiaries moving up. These are social programs, okay? And last one, he spoke about issues. Look, if Cathedral, I know we are coming there, that's why I didn't want to respond immediately. But if you read this constitution, Article 58, the executive powers of the president, okay, then you begin to appreciate that some of we clothe them with those powers, and some of these things can be brought before Parliament, and Parliament will approve.
So you're saying it's a free fall.
Good borrowing. I was saying
we'll come to that.
No, there are challenges.
Now let's go to the